The orbital station called Valith's Grace floated in the darkness between 3 solar systems. It was a place where many alien species came together. They traded goods. They made deals. They formed alliances through marriage. The station was home to diplomats, merchants, soldiers, and spies. Everyone watched everyone else. Trust was rare. Secrets were common. Kira Salva stood at the window of her quarters and looked out at the stars. Her skin shimmered with a soft blue light, like crystals catching sunlight. She was Villani, a species known for their beauty and their gift. Her people could share thoughts. They could feel emotions through telepathic bonds. When 2 Villani touched, their minds could sing together. But Kira felt only silence. She turned and looked at the man sitting in the corner of the room. Her husband, Marcus Cole, a human. He sat perfectly still in his chair, reading something on a datapad. He had not spoken a single word in the 3 hours since they returned from the council meeting. He rarely spoke at all. In the 2 months since their marriage, Kira could count his words on her fingers. The marriage was political. Kira understood this. The Galactic Concord wanted stronger ties with Earth. Humans were new to the stars. They had only discovered faster-than-light travel 40 years ago. Most species saw them as children, weak, primitive, unimportant. But Earth was growing fast. Their population was huge. Their ships were getting better. Smart leaders knew it was wise to make friends with humans now, before they became powerful. So Kira had agreed to marry one. A symbolic union. A bridge between worlds. She had expected many things. She had not expected silence. Marcus was tall for a human, with broad shoulders and hands that looked like they were made for hard work. His hair was dark and cut short. His face was calm, almost empty, like still water. He moved quietly. He ate quietly. He slept quietly. Sometimes, Kira forgot he was in the room at all. Her people whispered about him. She heard them at the council meetings, at the formal dinners, in the corridors of the station. She married a broken one, they said. A human without voice, without presence. What worth does he have? Perhaps humans are all like this. Empty inside. Poor Kira, stuck with a shadow. The words hurt more than Kira wanted to admit. She had tried to connect with Marcus. She had tried to touch his hand and reach for his thoughts, the way Villani couples did. But his mind was like a wall. Not cold, exactly. Just closed. Completely and totally closed. She did not know if this was normal for humans. She did not know if something was wrong with him. She only knew that she felt more alone in this marriage than she had ever felt in her life. Marcus, she said. He looked up from his datapad. His eyes met hers. They were gray, like storm clouds, and very steady. The dinner tonight, Kira continued. The one hosted by Ambassador Threx. Will you attend with me? Marcus nodded once. Will you speak to anyone? He considered this for a moment. Then he shook his head. Kira sighed. The other diplomats think you are strange. They think I made a mistake in accepting this marriage. It would help if you showed them something. Anything. Marcus set down his datapad. He picked up a small writing tool and wrote on the screen. Then he turned it toward her. The words read, I am sorry. I will try. Kira felt a small flash of frustration. She wanted to hear his voice. She wanted to understand what was happening inside his head. But she pushed the feeling down and nodded. Thank you, she said. We leave in 1 hour. The dinner was held in the grand hall of the station. The room was vast, with ceilings that seemed to touch the stars. Hundreds of beings filled the space Villani with their glowing skin, Kethvari with their scaled bodies and sharp teeth, Movani with their 4 arms and gentle eyes, and many others. Music played. Food was served. Conversations filled the air like the buzzing of insects. Kira moved through the crowd with practiced grace. She smiled. She spoke the right words. She played the game of politics the way she had been trained to do since childhood. Marcus walked beside her like a ghost. He wore simple dark clothes, nothing fancy. He did not smile. He did not speak. When other diplomats greeted him, he gave a small nod and nothing more. Kira saw the confusion on their faces. She saw the pity. She felt shame burning in her chest. But then she noticed something else. During the dinner, Kira watched Marcus more carefully. She saw the way his eyes moved. They never stopped moving. They swept across the room again and again, tracking every person, every door, every shadow. When a guard shifted position, Marcus noticed. When a servant lingered too long near the Villani ambassador, Marcus noticed. When a Kethvari diplomat reached inside his coat, Marcus's hand twitched slightly toward his own side. He was watching everything. He was measuring everything. Like a predator studying a hunting ground. Kira felt a strange chill run through her body. She had assumed Marcus was empty, passive, a quiet man with nothing inside. But now she wondered if she had been completely wrong. After the dinner, they walked back to their quarters in silence. Kira kept glancing at her husband. Questions burned in her mind. As they entered their rooms, she finally spoke. "You were watching the guards tonight. All of them. Why?" Marcus paused. He turned to look at her. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he walked to a small cabinet in the corner of the room. He opened it and took something out. A blade. It was long and thin and darker than any metal Kira had ever seen. It seemed to drink the light around it. Marcus held it up so she could see. Then he put it back and closed the cabinet. He picked up his datapad and wrote, "Because someone in that room wanted to hurt you. I needed to know who." Kira's blood went cold. "What? Who? Did you see something?" Marcus wrote again. "The Kethvari servant who refilled your wine glass. She had poison on her fingers. I switched your glass when you were talking to Ambassador Threx." Kira stared at him. Her mind raced. She had not noticed anything. She had drunk from that glass without a second thought. "Why did you not tell me?" she demanded. Marcus wrote, "You were safe." That was enough. He set down the datapad and walked toward his sleeping area. At the doorway, he stopped. He turned back and looked at Kira with those gray, steady eyes. And for the first time, Kira Salvith wondered what kind of man she had really married. 3 weeks passed after the dinner. Kira did not forget about the poison. She could not forget. Every time she looked at Marcus, she thought about how close she had come to death without knowing it. She thought about how he had saved her life without saying a single word. She began to watch him more carefully. She began to notice things she had missed before. The way he always sat with his back to the wall. The way he tested every door before walking through it. The way he never ate food unless he had seen it prepared. The way he moved through crowds like water flowing around stones, never touching anyone, never drawing attention. These were not the habits of a simple man. These were the habits of someone who had lived with danger for a very long time. Kira wanted answers. She started searching. The records on Marcus Cole were thin. Born on Earth, in a region called the Northern Federation. Military service from age 16 to age 32. Then nothing. 16 years of blank space before he appeared on the station as her husband. But Kira had connections. She knew people who knew people. She asked questions quietly, carefully, like pulling threads from a piece of cloth. The answers she found made her afraid. "The silence," whispered an old human trader she met in the lower markets. His eyes went wide when she mentioned Marcus's name. "You married one of the Silence?" "Lady, I do not know if you are very lucky or very cursed." "What are the Silence?" Kira asked. The trader looked around to make sure no one was listening. "Soldiers." Special soldiers. From the Unification Wars. You know about the wars? Kira knew a little. 50 years ago, Earth had nearly destroyed itself. The great nations had fought each other with terrible weapons. Billions had died. Cities had burned. The survivors had crawled out of the ashes and built a new world government. That was how humanity had finally united through almost complete destruction. The wars were fought underground, the trader continued. In tunnels. In bunkers. In the dark places beneath the ruined cities. Sound carried in those tunnels. Any noise could bring death. So they trained soldiers to fight without sound. To move without sound. To kill without sound. They called them the Silence. The trader shook his head slowly. The Silence won the war. They ended it. They went into the enemy strongholds and killed everyone inside, and no one heard a thing until the morning came. After the war, most of them disappeared. Some say they were too dangerous to let live. Some say they just wanted to forget what they had become. Kira returned to her quarters that night with a heavy heart. She found a single image buried deep in old military files, a picture from 15 years ago. It showed Marcus standing in a ruined building. Bodies lay around him like fallen leaves. His face was empty. His blade was dark with blood. She stared at that image for a long time. That night, Kira could not sleep. She lay in her bed and listened to the silence of the station. She thought about the man sleeping in the next room. A killer, a weapon, a ghost from Earth's darkest days. And yet he had saved her life. He had asked for nothing in return. He had not even told her about it until she asked Dot why. The answer came 2 days later, when someone tried to kill her again. Dot had happened in the morning. Kira was walking through a corridor near the engineering section. She had a meeting with a Morvani trade representative. The corridor was empty, except for a few workers. One of the workers moved toward her. His hand reached into his coat. Something metal gleamed in his fingers. Kira never saw what happened next. One moment the man was raising his weapon. The next moment he was on the ground, his arm bent at a wrong angle, his face pressed against the floor. Marcus stood over him, one knee on the man's back, one hand gripping his neck. The whole thing had taken less than 2 seconds. Marcus had not made a single sound. Station security arrived moments later. They took the attacker away. He was Kethvari, wearing a fake skin to look like a Morvani worker. He carried a neural disruptor, a weapon that could kill without leaving a mark. Kira sat in the security office and tried to stop her hands from shaking. Marcus sat beside her, calm and still as always. "How did you know?" she asked him. "How did you know he was an attacker?" Marcus took out his datapad. "He was watching you. Not the way workers watch important people. The way hunters watch prey. You were following me?" "Yes. Why?" Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he wrote, "Because someone wants you dead. I need to find out who." Kira felt something shift inside her chest. For months, she had thought of Marcus as a burden, a silent stranger she was forced to live with. Now she realized the truth. He was not ignoring her. He was protecting her. Every single day, in ways she never saw. That night, Kira went to Marcus's room. She found him sitting on his bed, cleaning his blade with a soft cloth. The weapon was beautiful in a terrible way, like a black snake coiled and waiting. "Tell me about yourself," Kira said. "Please, I need to understand." Marcus looked at her for a long moment. Then he set down his blade and picked up his datapad. "What do you want to know?" "Everything. The wars. The silence. Why you are here. Why you married me." Marcus began to write. It took a long time. When he finished, he handed her the datapad. Kira read his words. She learned about the tunnels beneath burning cities. She learned about boys turned into weapons before they were old enough to understand what war meant. She learned about the things Marcus had done to survive, and the things he had done to end the killing. At the end, he had written, "I did not want this marriage for politics. I wanted it because I am tired of being alone. I wanted to protect something instead of destroy it. I wanted to be human again." Kira felt tears forming in her eyes. She set down the datapad and reached out her hand. Slowly, carefully, she touched Marcus's face. His skin was warm. His mind was still close to her. But in his gray eyes, she saw something she had never seen before. Hope. "They will send more assassins," Kira said softly. Marcus nodded. "Then we will face them together." For the first time since their wedding, Marcus smiled. It was small and brief, like sunlight breaking through clouds. But it was real. Then a sound came from the other room. A soft click. A footstep in the darkness. Marcus was on his feet in an instant, his blade in his hand. He moved toward the door like a shadow flowing across water. Kira heard a short struggle. A grunt of pain. Then silence. When she entered the main room, she found Marcus standing over another body. A HFY assassin, dressed all in black, a knife still clutched in his dead hand. Marcus looked at her. And for the first time in their marriage, he spoke aloud. "They will send more," he said. His voice was low and rough, like stones grinding together. "This is just the beginning." Kira looked at the body. She looked at her husband. She felt fear and anger and something else burning inside her chest. "Then let them come," she said. The dead assassin changed everything. News spread through the station like fire through dry grass. A HFY agent had been found dead in the quarters of the Volani diplomat and her human husband. The HFY Dominion claimed innocence. They said the dead man was a criminal acting alone. They demanded an apology for the insult to their honor. No one believed them. The Volani Council met in emergency session. Kira was called before them to explain what had happened. She stood in the center of the great chamber, surrounded by the glowing faces of her people, and told them the truth. Marcus had killed the assassin. Marcus had been protecting her from threats they never knew existed. The council did not react the way she expected. "This human is dangerous," said Elder Morith, the oldest member of the council. His crystal skin was dark with age, and his voice was cold. "He brings violence into our house. He kills on our station. This is not acceptable." "He saved my life," Kira said. 3 times now. Should I apologize for not dying?" "You should not have married him," another elder said. "Humans are unpredictable. This one more than most. We have learned what he was before, a killer from their savage wars. We cannot have such a creature walking our halls. We demand that he leave the station," Elder Morith declared. "The marriage can remain official, but the human must go. This is for the safety of everyone." Kira felt anger rise inside her like a wave. "You would send away the only person who has kept me alive? The assassins are HFY. Why do you punish my husband instead of confronting them?" "Because confronting the HFY means war," Elder Morith replied. "And we are not ready for war. Sending away one human is easier than fighting an empire." Kira looked around the chamber. She saw fear in the faces of her people. They were afraid of the HFY. They were afraid of conflict. They wanted the problem to go away quietly, and they were willing to sacrifice Marcus to make that happen. "No," Kira said. The word hung in the air like a blade. "No?" Elder Morith repeated. "You refuse the council's decision?" "I refuse to abandon the man who protected me when my own people would not. I refuse to be a coward." Kira's voice shook with emotion. "If you want him gone, you will have to remove me as well. We are bonded in marriage. Where he goes, I go." The chamber erupted in angry voices. Elders shouted at each other. Some supported Kira. Most did not. In the end, the council declared that they would delay their decision for 1 week. They needed time to discuss. Time to plan. Kira walked out of the chamber with her head held high. But inside she felt broken. Her own people had turned against her. The family she had served her whole life was ready to throw her away. Marcus was waiting outside. He had heard everything through the communication link in his ear. He said nothing, but his eyes were soft with something that might have been gratitude. They walked back to their quarters in silence. When they arrived, Kira sat down heavily on a chair. She felt exhausted, empty. "I am sorry," Marcus said. Kira looked up, surprised. He so rarely spoke. "Why are you sorry?" she asked. "Because I brought this trouble to you." Marcus sat across from her. "The council is right about one thing. I am dangerous. My past follows me like a shadow. You would be safer without me." "No," Kira said firmly. "I would be dead without you." Several times over. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he stood and removed his outer shirt. Kira drew in a sharp breath. His body was covered in scars. Dozens of them. Hundreds. Lines and circles and strange patterns, covering his chest, his arms, his back. Some were old and faded. Some looked like they had come from blades. Others looked like burns. A few looked like they had been carved deliberately, like writing in flesh. "This is what I am," Marcus said quietly. "This is what the wars made me. I learned to move without sound because sound meant death. I learned to feel nothing because feeling meant weakness. I learned to kill because killing was the only way to survive." He sat down again and looked at his hands. "After the wars ended, I could not stop. The silence stayed inside me. The emptiness stayed inside me. I tried to be normal. I tried to live like other people. But I could not speak. I could not connect. I was a ghost walking among the living." Kira listened without interrupting. She felt the weight of his pain pressing against her heart. "When they offered me this marriage," Marcus continued, "I thought maybe it could save me. Maybe protecting someone would give me a reason to exist. Maybe being with someone who was not from Earth would help me forget what I had done there." He looked at Kira with those gray, steady eyes. "I did not expect to care about you. I did not expect you to care about me. I am not good at feeling things. But I think I am starting to remember how." Kira stood and walked to him. She knelt before his chair and took his scarred hands in her smooth ones. Her people communicated through touch, through shared thoughts. Marcus's mind was still close to her. She could not hear his thoughts, but she did not need telepathy to understand him. His eyes told her everything. "My people bond through our minds," Kira said softly. "We share thoughts and feelings like songs. I always believed that was the only true connection. But now I understand something new." She squeezed his hands. "Connection is not about reading minds. It is about choosing to stay. It is about trusting someone with your truth. It is about standing beside them when the world tries to tear you apart." Marcus stared at her. His lips moved, but no words came out. "You do not have to speak," Kira told him. "You do not have to be anything other than what you are. Just stay with me. Let me stay with you. That is enough." For a long moment, they sat together in silence. The station hummed around them. Somewhere in the darkness, enemies plotted against them. Somewhere in the darkness, somewhere in the halls, her people whispered about betrayal. But in that small room, two broken people held on to each other. And for the first time in years, neither of them felt alone. Then Marcus's communication device buzzed. He checked it, and his face went hard. "What is it?" Kira asked. "A message from a contact in station security." Marcus showed her the screen. "The Kethvari are not just targeting you. They are planning something much bigger. An attack on the station. They want to blame humans for the destruction. They want to start a war." Kira felt ice spraying through her veins. How long do we have? 3 days, Marcus said. Maybe less? Kira stood up. Her fear transformed into determination. Then, we have 3 days to stop them. Marcus nodded. He picked up his blade and held it ready. Tell me what you need me to do, Kira said. For the first time, Marcus's lips curved into something like a real smile. Stay close, he said. And trust me. I do, Kira replied. And she meant it with every part of her being. The attack came on the second day. That had happened during the Grand Summit, when delegates from every species gathered in the central chamber to discuss trade agreements and peace treaties. The room was filled with hundreds of important beings. Ambassadors, generals, merchants, leaders who controlled entire planets. Kira stood near the Vallani delegation, watching the proceedings. Marcus stood behind her, invisible in his stillness. Just another silent human in a room full of aliens. Then the lights went out. Darkness swallowed the chamber. Screams filled the air. Energy weapons fired in the blackness, their beams cutting through the crowd. Bodies fell. Chaos erupted. Emergency lights flickered on, casting everything in a dim red glow. Kira saw HFY soldiers pouring into the chamber through hidden doors. They wore black armor and carried heavy weapons. They moved with military precision, surrounding the delegates, cutting off all escape. Everyone stay where you are. A voice boomed through the speakers. This station now belongs to the HFY Dominion. Resist and you will die. A massive figure stepped forward from the soldiers. He was HFY, but larger than any Kira had seen before. His scales were dark red, almost black. His eyes burned with cruel intelligence. Metal implants covered parts of his body, military enhancements that made him faster and stronger than nature intended. I am Commander Vexthal, the figure announced. In exactly 1 hour, this station will be destroyed. The Galactic Concord will find evidence that human terrorists planted the bombs. War will follow. The humans will be punished for their arrogance in thinking they could stand among the great species of the galaxy. Kira felt terror gripping her heart. She looked for Marcus but could not see him anywhere. Where had he gone? Then she heard something. Or rather, she heard nothing. In the darkness at the edge of the chamber, HFY soldiers began to fall. One moment they were standing. The next moment they were on the ground, silent and still. No screams. No sounds of struggle. Just bodies dropping like puppets with cut strings. Commander Vexthal noticed. His head turned toward the darkness. What is happening? Report. More soldiers fell. A shadow moved between them, too fast to follow. Someone shouted a warning. A weapon fired into the darkness. The shot hit nothing. Then Marcus stepped into the light. He stood among the bodies of fallen soldiers, his blade dark with blood, his face calm as still water. He looked at Commander Vexthal with those gray, steady eyes. Humans do not plant bombs in civilian stations, Marcus said. His rough voice carried through the silent chamber. We fight our enemies face to face. Vexthal laughed. It was an ugly sound. One human? You think one human can stop us? Look around you, little creature. I have 100 soldiers. You have a knife. I have faced worse odds, Marcus replied. Kira watched, barely breathing. She saw delegates cowering behind overturned tables. She saw Vallani guards lying wounded on the floor. She saw her people looking at the scene with terrified eyes. And then she made a decision. She reached out with her mind. The Vallani gift was meant for bonding, for sharing emotions between loved ones. But Kira had always been strong in her gift. She had trained it like a muscle. Now she used it for something new. She touched the minds of every Vallani in the room. She touched the minds of the Morvani, who were telepathically sensitive. She touched the minds of the Threen traders and the Kalax merchants. She sent them a single thought, burning with certainty. Fight. The effect was immediate. Delegates rose from behind their cover. Wounded guards grabbed fallen weapons. The crowd that had been prey transformed into an army. Kira pointed at the HFY soldiers. They want to destroy us all. They want to start a war that will kill billions. Stop them. The chamber exploded into battle. Marcus moved through the chaos like a ghost. 3 soldiers came at him with electrified batons. He slipped between their attacks, his blade singing through the air. They fell without understanding what had hit them. 5 more attacked from behind. Marcus spun, dropped low, and cut their legs out from under them. They collapsed, screaming. The delegates fought with desperate courage. A Morvani trademaster used his 4 arms to wrestle a rifle away from a soldier. A group of 3 merchants overwhelmed 3 HFY with sheer numbers. Even the Villani elders, who had never held weapons in their lives, picked up fallen blasters and fired at the enemy. But Commander Vexthil was carving his own path through the battle. He moved toward Kira with terrible purpose. His implants made him impossibly fast. His armored fists crushed anyone who stood in his way. Kira stood her ground. She would not run. She would not hide. Vexthil reached her and grabbed her by the throat. He lifted her off the ground like she weighed nothing. "Foolish creature," he hissed. "Did you think you could defy the Dominion? Did you think your pet human could save you?" Kira struggled to breathe. Her vision began to darken. Then a voice cut through the noise. Cold, calm, deadly. "Let her go." Marcus stood 10 feet away. His blade pointed at Vexthil. His body was covered in blood, none of it his own. Around him lay the bodies of every soldier who had tried to stop him. Vexthil laughed again. "You want her? Come take her from me, little human." He threw Kira aside. She hit the ground hard, gasping for air. Through blurry eyes, she watched what happened next. Marcus attacked. The 2 fighters crashed together like storms meeting. Vexthil was bigger, stronger, faster. His military implants gave him speed that no natural being could match. He struck at Marcus with fists that could crush metal. But Marcus was not trying to match his strength. He was waiting, watching, reading every movement like letters on a page. Vexthil swung a massive punch. Marcus slipped aside by inches. The commander kicked with enough force to shatter stone. Marcus was already moving, circling, never where the attacks landed. "Stand still and fight." Vexthil roared. Marcus said nothing. He took a cut across his arm. He took a blow to his ribs that cracked bone. He did not slow down. He did not make a sound. He was waiting for the moment it came. Vexthil overextended on a killing strike, putting all his enhanced power into a single blow meant to end the fight. For 1 heartbeat, his chest was exposed. Marcus moved. His blade entered Vexthil's throat and exited through the back of his neck. The commander's eyes went wide with shock. His mouth opened, but no words came out. Only blood. Marcus withdrew his blade and stepped back. Commander Vexthil, terror of a dozen conquered worlds, fell to his knees. Then he fell forward and did not move again. The surviving HFY soldiers saw their leader die. The fight went out of them. They dropped their weapons and surrendered. Silence fell over the chamber. Everyone stared at Marcus, this quiet, ordinary-looking human who had just killed an enhanced super soldier in single combat. Marcus looked at the crowd. When he spoke, his voice was soft, but it carried to every ear. "Humanity remembers its wars," he said. "We learned to survive them. We learned to fight them. We learned to end them." He paused and looked at the surrendered soldiers. "You should have studied us before you made us your enemy." Then his legs gave out. Kira scrambled to her feet and ran to him. She caught him before he hit the ground. His body was broken. Ribs cracked. Blood flowing from a dozen wounds. But his eyes were open, and they found her face. "Are you safe?" he whispered. Tears streamed down Kira's face. "You fool. You brave, wonderful fool. Is that a yes?" Kira laughed through her tears. Yes, I am safe. Because of you." Marcus smiled. A real smile, full and warm. Then his eyes closed, and he went limp in her arms. Kira screamed for medics. She held on to her husband and refused to let go. Around her, the station erupted into chaos once more, but this time, it was the chaos of victory. The bombs were found and disarmed. The Kethvari plot was exposed. And one silent human had changed everything. Marcus Cole lay in the medical bay for 12 days. The doctors said it was a miracle he survived. His ribs were shattered. His left arm was broken in 3 places. He had lost enough blood to kill most beings. But his heart kept beating. His lungs kept breathing. His body refused to give up. Kira stayed by his side through every hour. She held his hand while machines pumped healing fluids into his veins. She talked to him even when he could not hear. She told him about the news from across the galaxy, about the flowers someone had sent to his room, about the messages of gratitude pouring in from species he had never met. The footage had spread everywhere. Every network, every planet, every station had seen what happened in the Grand Summit Chamber. They had watched a single human stand against an army. They had watched him fight and bleed and win. Humanity, once dismissed as newcomers barely worth noticing, was suddenly the talk of the galaxy. Did you see what their soldier did? People asked each other in markets and meeting halls. Did you see how he moved? Did you see how he fought? They said humans were weak. They said humans were primitive. But that one human killed Commander Vestal, the commander who conquered 6 worlds. We should not have underestimated them. We should not have looked down on them. If one human can do that, what can 1,000,000 of them do? The questions spread like ripples in water, and the answers made powerful beings very nervous. On the 8th day, Marcus opened his eyes. Kira was there, holding his hand. When she saw him looking at her, she burst into tears. "You came back," she whispered. "You came back to me." Marcus's lips moved. His voice was barely a sound. "I promise to protect you. Cannot do that if I'm dead." Kira laughed and cried at the same time. She leaned down and pressed her forehead against his. Among her people, this was the most intimate gesture possible, a sharing of warmth, of presence, of love. "Never scare me like that again," she said. "I will try," Marcus replied. "But I cannot promise." Over the next few days, visitors came to see him. Delegates from species across the Concord brought gifts and thanks. The Morvani trade master who had fought beside them came with a bottle of their finest drink. The Villani elders, the same ones who had wanted Marcus removed from the station, came with apologies written in formal script. Elder Morath himself stood at the foot of Marcus's bed, his ancient face heavy with shame. "We were wrong," he said. "We judge you by what you were, not by who you are. You saved our people. You saved this station. The Villani owe you a debt that can never be repaid." Marcus looked at the old man for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Take care of Kira. That will be payment enough." A human delegation arrived on the 10th day. Ambassador Chun, Earth's representative to the Galactic Concord, walked into the medical bay with 3 aides behind her. She was a small woman with iron-gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. When she saw Marcus, she stopped. She stood straight, and she raised her hand to her forehead in a formal salute. "Peacekeeper," she said. "On behalf of Earth, I thank you for your service." Marcus stared at her. Something flickered in his eyes. Old memories, old pain, old pride. Slowly, painfully, he lifted his unbroken arm and returned the salute. "Humanity remembers," Ambassador Chun said. "We always remember. She left after that, but her words stayed in the room like an echo. On the 12th day, Marcus was finally allowed to leave the medical bay. He walked slowly, leaning on Kira for support. His body was weak. His wounds were still healing. But he was alive, and that was more than enough. They went to the observation deck, a quiet place with wide windows that looked out at the stars. They sat together on a bench and watched the universe turn slowly around them. What happens now? Marcus asked. Kira considered the question. The Kethvari Dominion is falling apart. Commander Vexthal was one of their strongest leaders. With him dead and their plot exposed, their allies are abandoning them. Their own people are rising up against the military government. And the Concord? The Concord is talking about giving humanity a permanent seat on the High Council. Equal status with the founding species. Kira smiled. You changed things, Marcus. One man, one blade, and everything is different now. Marcus shook his head slowly. I did not do it for politics. I did it for you. Kira took his hand. I know. That is why it mattered. They sat in comfortable silence, watching ships drift past the windows. After a while, Marcus spoke again. I never thought I could have this. Have what? Peace. He looked at her with those gray eyes, no longer cold, no longer empty. Purpose that does not require killing. Someone who sees me as a person, not a weapon. Kira squeezed his hand. You were always a person, Marcus. The wars hurt you. They buried you under pain and silence. But you were never just a weapon. A weapon cannot choose to protect. A weapon cannot choose to love. Marcus was quiet for a long time. Then he reached up and touched her face with careful fingers. I am not good with words, he said. I never have been. But I need you to know something. What? You saved me. Not the other way around. Before I met you, I was waiting to die. I did not care about anything. I did not hope for anything. You gave me a reason to live. You gave me something worth protecting. You gave me a home. Tears rolled down Kira's cheeks. She leaned forward and pressed her lips against his, a human gesture she had learned just for him. Then stay with me, she whispered. Stay with me, and we will build a life together. A real life. Not politics, not duty. Just us. Marcus nodded. I will stay. For as long as you want me. Forever. Then. Forever. Weeks later, Kira walked through the gardens of the station. The flowers were blooming blue and silver and gold, imported from a dozen worlds. The air smelled sweet and clean. A young Valani diplomat approached her. Her name was Sarah, and she was barely past childhood bright-eyed and curious about everything. Lady Kira, Sarah said nervously. May I ask you something? Of course. Your husband. The human everyone talks about. Sarah glanced toward Marcus, who stood at the far end of the garden, looking out at the stars. How did you know? How did you see something in him when everyone else saw nothing? Kira smiled. She thought about the first months of her marriage, the frustration, the confusion, the silence that had seemed like emptiness. I did not see it at first, Kira admitted. I only saw what he showed the world. Nothing. Stillness. Silence. I thought he was empty inside. What changed? I learned to listen to the silence. Kira watched her husband with love in her eyes. Silence is not emptiness, Sarah. It is everything he chose not to say. Everything he held back to protect others. He was never weak. He was never broken. He was waiting for a reason to be strong again. Marcus turned and caught her eye across the garden. He smiled, that small, rare smile that Kira treasured more than any jewel. She smiled back. And now, Kira finished. He does not have to wait anymore. Sarah watched as Kira walked across the garden to join her husband. The two of them stood together at the window, his arm around her shoulders, her head resting against his chest. Two beings from different worlds, bound by something stronger than politics or duty, bound by choice, by trust, by love. Outside the window, the stars burned bright and eternal. The galaxy turned on, filled with danger and wonder and endless possibility. Wars would come and go. Empires would rise and fall. Species would meet and part and meet again. But here, in this quiet moment, a silent human and his Villani wife had found something precious, something worth fighting for, something that would last on, and that was the greatest victory of all.